What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Rough Draft Podcast. I'm Emery Kazi, and if you are new here, thanks for being here. This is going to be our wide receiver video for the 2026 NFL Draft Prospects. We've already shot 4 videos up to this point. That will be the quarterbacks, safeties, offensive tackles, and linebackers. I hope that everybody enjoyed free agency. Of course, the period didn't start till Wednesday, but everybody was already signed by then. Not actually signed, but figuratively signed. The Raiders situation was very interesting. I'm a Raiders fan, so following that very closely. And the Max Crosby deal, no deal thing was wild, especially because we just paid Tyler Linderbaum the most money possible a center could get at $27 million. That's just a ridiculous number, which is, I think he's a really good football player, but I'm worried that that's too much money for an interior offensive lineman. And then we got 2 linebackers, a nickel, and all these things. And then they're like, oh, wait, here's Max Crosby back because he failed physicals, so we're going to be taking both of our 2026 and 2027 first rounders back too. I was just like, what is going on? You know, the best option for us was to move on from Max Crosby, which is really sad because I love Max Crosby as a football player. I think he's one of the best in the league. I think that I wanted him to go somewhere, maybe the Bears or something now, where he gets an opportunity to win a ring. So let's send him somewhere where he gets a chance because I'm a huge fan of his, want to see him succeed. And this whole thing, you know, this wave of free agency that happens prior to actual signing day on Wednesday, and, you know, that was a little crazy and ridiculous. So I'd like to get rid of the tampering period if possible, or just change it where it's like the new league year's on Monday and, you know, restart it that way. Because I don't really like how that all went down, and really was a kind of confusing in all retrospect. So that was a crazy free agency to start, especially as a Raiders fan. The draft board looks different than last week. You know, everyone's going to start tearing up their mock drafts because of free agency and how it went. So you're going to see a bunch of guys that aren't going to be going to certain teams that were prior to free agency. That's how it happens every year. That's why pre-free agency mock drafts are fun, but truly they show you nothing other than like what you think the biggest team needs are. And of course, then those teams go into free agency and get those team needs. So we're going to have a bunch of different mocked teams when this next week comes along. Next Friday, we are going to be releasing our mock 2.0. Cam will be with me. Go check out our GTT channel if you haven't yet. Cam will be doing the free agency fiasco and summing it all up in the next week, sometime next week. So that'll be really fun. And if you enjoy our content, please like this content and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all those subscriptions. And if you're new, like I said, please go ahead and subscribe. We appreciate you. Now, let's talk about the wide receiver position because that's what we're here for. Big group of players with a lot of players to talk about. There's just so many different types of players in this class. That makes it so much fun when there's just, because you're comparing apples to oranges somewhat when you're talking about it. Like you have power slot plus type of guys. You have possession receivers. You have separators. You have contested catch players. You have guys that are just going to be slot players. You have X's and Y's, or X's and Z's. Guys that can do more than that on special teams and things like that. There are so many different types of wide receivers. And so that is what makes this position so much fun, because when you do your rankings, it's like, well, it also only matters what a team needs and wants. You might be like Pittsburgh. Apparently Pittsburgh does not like small guys. They only want Michael Pittman and DK Metcalf. Big possession, you know, contested catch receivers that don't separate that well. Not going to have, I guess, anybody else other than their tight ends on the field with them. So you're not going to get a lot of separation by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, there's other teams that, you know, want gadget guys and things like that. So I think it's really important to think about when you're just like trying to match players in the NFL draft. You have to look at what the GMs and coaches like. And that's what makes it so much fun, because wide receiver is such a weird, crazy position with so many different types of players. So easily one of the biggest strengths in this class overall. We're actually only going to, I think it's funny, but we're going to rank 14 guys because truly the honorable mention group is really good. And they're all jumbled in within 5 of each other. So it's one of those things where I was like, we'll just rank 14 because I know all of those guys are going to come up much higher on our board than the guys on the honorable mentions list. But some of those honorable mentions that I'll pull it up now. Those honorable mentions are going to be on the top 100 board because they're that good. So as I pull it up, 1 second. So it's a good group. It's a good group all the way around. Everybody can see it, I hope. So these are honorable mentions. There's 5 of them. Some of these guys are going to be ranked on other people's boards, like I was saying. Jacoby Lane out of USC. Let's start with him. He's the ultimate contested catch player in this class. Does not separate. My biggest thing is I'm not a big contested catch only guy. I think separation is the biggest thing for me. I'm a massive, like, can you get away from coverage, get open by separation more so than can you catch a ball when you're blanketed. I'd rather it be guys that run away from defenders all day long. And I just think jump ball players are kind of a dying breed. There's less of them in the NFL, guys that don't run a full route tree and things like that. Well, I think Jacoby Lane is that. Now, if you are going to be a jump ball guy, you kind of need to be in that like 60% plus on contested catch percentage. And he was much lower than that. He had a 43.5% this year. I think he should have gone back to school. That was a big thing for me. But like I said, I just want to see that separation, and Jacoby Lane doesn't do that, so that's just not my type of player. Now, he might fit, like I said, on the Pittsburgh Steelers because that's what they want, but he's just currently not my type of player, and so that's where Jacoby Lane is. I think Jacoby Lane will end up in some top 100s, though, and on top 15 boards for wide receivers for sure. Next guy is Deion Burks. Now, this guy is going to most likely be in our top 100. Burks is what I call confusing, if anything. He's never been productive, even knowing he has dynamic ability with the ball, just never used at Oklahoma. He was the number 2 wide receiver at Oklahoma this last year, and that didn't make any sense. On top of all that, he's some of the worst grades in the class when it comes to PFF grades. I like Burks. I really do. But I question why he wasn't featured. I question why wasn't he the main guy? Because, if you talk about like these college teams, they know what good football looks like. They're not crazy. They're not, they're not ridiculous. And then you go to the NFL and you're just so much better because the college coach didn't want to use you. Some teams, like, they just run the ball and you just end up where it's like there's no chances to get the ball to these guys, but that's not what happened here. Like, John Mateer, say what you want about him, he's a good football player, he's a good quarterback, he's going to be better next year, but Deion Burks didn't jump off the page when he was playing. Like, he just never got the ball, and that's not the first time. Like, it's happened multiple years. If I'm wrong about Deion, like, I understand why. I just have too many questions why he's not better, wasn't better, and that's why he's not higher on this list. But he did come in at the combine and run a 4.3, had a 42.5 vert. Like, the athlete is there. I think it is impossible to overlook that athlete. So that's why I'm putting him in the top 100 as a back end, like, early day 3, late day 2 guy that can, if he hits that ceiling, you're going to be very happy with the player you get. Next up is going to be Reggie Virgil. And actually, I didn't even watch Reggie Virgil until after the Senior Bowl because I liked what he did so much at the Senior Bowl. He shined. He was one of my favorite players there, along with Cyrus Allen, who we'll talk about in a minute. Personally, thought he was the best receiver there, though, over even the Cyrus Allen. For his height, really loved the quickness he showed. His cuts and his breaks were just crispy. He's a supernatural athlete. I don't think he's a freakish, speed demon or anything like that, but I just think he looks so comfortable in his movements, and that was really cool. He could end up in the top 100, but I think he's probably more of a 105 guy. Still really, really good. So I really liked Reggie Virgil. I thought what he did at the Senior Bowl made me go back to the tape and see if I'd matched, and I thought, there was some really good plays on tape. I talked about Baron Morton on our quarterback show and how I liked him in his film a lot. Well, Reggie Virgil was a big reason why. So they actually have 2 receivers at Texas Tech that were pretty good this year, and their tight end Terrence Carter, who actually went back to school. So lots of guys were catching the ball, but I thought Reggie Virgil looked the best out of all of them. He was the one that kind of stood out, and at the end of the day, he killed it at the Senior Bowl. Okay, next up, Mr. Skylar Bell at UConn. I think Skylar Bell is going to be in a lot of people's top 12. I'm not there. The numbers that Bell put up feel misleading in my opinion. It kind of reminds me of how Nick Nash was last year, and I'm not saying that Bell was that's not a comp by any means. Like, Nick Nash was a much older player, and he played at San Jose State. Like, I get it. Like, there's a difference, but it just kind of reminds me of that when you just talk about the pure scores. Like, he had the most yards on the year for this group, most receptions, most yards per reception, per route run, second in touchdowns among the players in the draft. Like, I don't think he can replicate that at the next level. It's just kind of the problem. I see him more of a wide receiver 2 or 3. Most likely a wide receiver 3, and he's an older player, which, like I just said about Nick Nash was an older player, but I don't want to combine them in a statement necessarily because they're not the same guy. He's going to be 24 prior to the season beginning, so that little scares me a little bit, but I think the biggest issue for him is the play strength. Like, his play strength and physicality are major concerns, in my opinion. And I thought that was kind of one of the issues that really pushes him down, in my opinion. I don't think he can do contested catches. I don't think he can play press. That might restrict him to the slot, things like that. So I'm just not nearly as high as some people on Skylar Bell, but I mean, the combine was super impressive because I did not see that speed or that athleticism on tape. He ran a 4.440. He had a 39.5-inch vert and 11.1 broad. So a lot of good athleticism there that I didn't see on tape. So I think that it's good and bad. A little bit of a caveat, you want to see it on tape because then he can use it. But at the same time, I know he has it in his back pocket if he has to. Now, Cyrus Allen, I love Cyrus Allen. Kind of sad he's not on this list. I probably could have put him at 15. He would probably be the next guy. But like I said, Skylar Bell, Deion Burks, they're all right there with each other. And then, of course, Reggie Virgil was a guy that I think I really vaulted up. So where they all land on the big board is going to be interesting, but I just did not want to put them on this ranking because they're just so close. The route running with gadget intangibles is so much fun for Cyrus Allen, in my opinion. He is pretty special in open field with the ball. Here's a quick stat that I like to talk about. There's stats you can take from all kinds of places, of course, but one of mine that I look at in depthly is yards per reception minus average depth of target. And he had a 2.4, which is really good. So this is effective. This stat is only effective if the average depth of target is past 10 yards. So if you look at the players that are like this, that have a 2.4. You have Casey Concepcion, Carnell Tate, and then Mekhi Lemon is just ahead of that. So all those guys are in this range, and that just means that they're catching the ball, and then after the catch, they're getting that yak that you see. And I think this is a better example of yak than yak is itself, because if you catch the ball at 3.3 yards per reception, and then you have like 6 yards of yak, no one cares, because you still have less yards per reception than Carnell Tate. It was like 17, right? So I thought Cyrus Allen had a lot more juice with the ball in his hands than some of the other guys that might, you might just say, look at the yak and be like, oh yeah, that looks great. It's like, yeah, but let's look at it in a different way. Here's how I look at it, at least. I thought his routes were really solid. He used a lot of body fakes, attacks leverage well, really tried to set up defenders, just understood how to get to use his gadget type skills for releases and cuts and things like that. Not going to offer much as a contested catch player again. That's just not the strength. His overall strength and size restricts him. And it probably restricts him to the slot also. So that's one of the things. But I actually think he has wide receiver. I think he's closer to a wide receiver 2 than I did Skylar Bell personally. But he's most likely still a wide receiver 3. So that is our honorable mentions list. We're going to rank, like I said, 14 guys. This video is going to be a little longer than the other ones, probably most likely. But here's the next grouping. It's going to be 12 through 14. We're going to start at the bottom. Malachi Fields. Malachi Fields is getting a lot of love. And I'm not as high as others. And I actually think, funny enough, this was his worst season, in my opinion. I thought he was way better when he was at Virginia. So that's something that I just want to put out there. He has that typical X frame, 6'4", 218. He's going to be a little older at 24 years old, but the length is hard to overlook. Dominates at the catch point. You've seen him catch the one-handed ball, and you saw him catch the big pass at the Senior Bowl. But those are kind of the passes that he catches like once a game, and then is really quiet the rest of the game. Very limited route tree at Notre Dame, so that's part of the reason why I liked him at Virginia more. At Virginia, funny enough, he actually caught a lot of balls on screens, which was really weird. They just wanted to get the ball in this guy's hand, which is good to see, because that just means that, they trust his athleticism and his physicality to go get yards. And then, for him, like I was saying, physicality is the name of the game for him. Getting off the line of scrimmage, at the catch point, the strong hands that I see, like those types of things that he's doing is why he will never be a wide receiver 1, in my opinion. But you could always say, hey, like, let's put this guy on the field. He's going to go and make plays at the catch point that you're going to be really excited about. He kind of reminds me of Mac Hollins in that way. Like, Mac Hollins isn't necessarily going to be a household name, but he's going to go out there and block, and he blocks really well, which keeps him on the field. And then he also has really good contested catches and finishes at the catch point. I think Malachi Fields is better than Matt Collins, of course, because Matt Collins was a much lower prospect overall coming out. But Matt Collins has made his name because he does those things, and he's a team player. I think Malachi Fields is that type of player. I think at Notre Dame, he was incorrectly used. Thought going to Notre Dame was either going to be the best or the worst thing for him, and I actually thought it was the worst thing. It made him end up kind of mad because they just did not have like a quarterback that was challenging holes and things like that. I think he's much closer to wide receiver 3, though, than he is a wide receiver 1. That's not even close, in my opinion. Hasn't truly dominated at any point in his career. I would consider him a safe pick, except for when you're talking about in the first round of the Bills, which is ridiculous, Jeremiah, just saying. But, that's just me. I think he's a safe pick in the late second, early third. Most likely in the third round, though, would be where I would want to take him. Separation issues in taller players worries me, like we just talked about, and he just lacks twitchiness. He doesn't have it. We just saw it on the 40 and things like that. I can't believe they set his line at a 4.52. That was the easiest money I've ever made in my life. He is a 24-year-old when the season starts. The athlete I expected showed at the combine, and so that's the guy I really thought we were getting, and we got him. Malachi Fields is 14 for us. Next up is going to be Antonio Williams, number 13 out of Clemson. Antonio was our GTD dark horse, and if everybody knows how Clemson's season went and how I've talked about it, it's really sad what happened, but his 2024 tape was good. Good enough for me to get excited. And then he ran a good 40, 4.41. He's got a thick, really solid frame. He's playing the slot receiver for most likely in the NFL. Really nice speed adjustment and routes. I love the start-stop and both breaks and straight line. Like, he just really does a good job of, coming down and getting out of his breaks. Slot only in 2025 also. But in 2024, he split inside and outside snaps. I still think he's a slot only in the NFL. But he at least has a little bit of practice outside. Top attribute is short area quickness, always moving, finding space. He's kind of like a squirrel, if y'all kind of get that reference. Like, he's always moving around. He's always trying to find space. He's always trying to come to the quarterback and things like that. I like that a lot. Uses his quickness to set up defenders, both in route running and after the catch. I thought he was actually pretty good after the catch. And then his movement is perfect for zone against zone because he's constantly moving. Like I said, 1.8% drop rate. Not going to have your really deep A-dot by any means, but he's going to catch the ball and get about 12 yards a catch and be pretty solid. The bad, of course, is, like I said, he's restricted to the slot. GTD Dark Horse wanted him to take his next step forward, and no one on that team did. Don't forget, though, also, he was injured. That always hurts, especially when it's not long-term injury, but a lingering injury the whole year. Doesn't have explosive long speed in my opinion. He ran a 4.41, but like I don't think he's an explosive player vertically. Now, he's not going to wow you necessarily, but he has a lot of gadget plays on tape that aren't like I think that is actually more detriment to him because I don't think he's that guy. I don't think he's a gadget play type of player. I think he's a really good route runner that gets in the middle of the field and is willing to make catches where, in the hard parts of the field. And he's good at setting up defenders, both in route running and after the catch. Just a really good football player that I think has a place in the NFL as a wide receiver too. And I feel pretty safe with that. I think the next guy we're going to talk about is Ted Hurst, who I don't think is nearly as safe, but I think that the long, athletic X receiver is a great build, and I'm excited to see what he can become. So much better than his competition, unfortunately, because he played at Georgia State. Lengthy contested catchability is really good. One of the best catch radiuses in the class. He's a hands catcher. Like, he really can catch the ball anywhere. If y'all watched the Senior Bowl, he caught a one-handed catch on Julian Neal. It was awesome. Couldn't make the case that he is the top red zone target in the class. There's just so many good jump ball snags over defenders. Now, that's a very big take if I was just going to say, like, that's where I'm standing and playing my flag, but there's a good chance that he could become that guy. I really like his change of direction, actually, for his size. He bursts in and out of breaks, makes some spectacular catches, like I said, but he also has some route running, pretty solid route runner, creates good separation at all three levels. So there's some good nuance in there, but the issue is, like I said, he's still playing the Sun Belt, and I think that's a problem. But he did run a 4.42, which was blazing, which checked off the box, the big box for a guy that I don't know that looked that fast on tape all the time. He's a glider. He runs he doesn't run. He barely ever puts his feet on the ground, I swear. He just kind of bounces out there, and it was good to see that he was as fast as he was. But the bad comes in the fact that he played on one of the worst teams in college football. Now, I'm not going to compare these two guys, but Jalen Royals from last year actually played on the worst team in college football, and he did not really touch the field for the Kansas City Chiefs this year. So just want to put it out there that, sometimes you are the best player on your team, but that doesn't make you a very good football player in the way of, like, you're going to separate at the NFL level. Now, he has an undersized frame. He lacks functional strength and physicality. That will show up against better competition. That is not a question in my mind. I think there's some physical. He needs to get stronger. Like, you look at Malachi Fields and you look at Ted Hurst, and it's like, well, Malachi Fields has, like, grown man strength. He's all 2 years older. But, that 218 looks a lot different than that 206 on Ted Hurst. So just want to put that out there that he needs to gain a little bit of weight. The drops are an absolute problem, 9% drops, and those are all concentration drops in my opinion. He's got to do better at that. Don't think he has a great release package necessarily, and especially against press. He just mostly uses his athleticism right now because, he is playing against, like I said, Sunbelt players. He reminds me most, if I had to comp, so I didn't comp anybody else yet, but everybody 12 up as comps. Josh Reynolds, funny enough, I see a lot of Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds was really good at Texas A&M, and they're both tall, lanky athletes that make plays down the field. I thought that those two guys made a lot of sense when I watched them. I don't think Josh Reynolds was this fast, but Josh Reynolds was a good football player at A&M, and I think Ted Hurst kind of reminds me of how he played there. Now, let's go over to the next one. We actually have 4 guys on this one. There we go. First guy's going to be at the bottom down there, Zachariah Branch out of Georgia. I think that this is I think I'm lower on Zachariah Branch based on consensus, because with Zachariah Branch, like, let's talk about the good first, I guess. I can't really just jump to the bad. Let's start with the good. He's an explosive gadget player. That is partly good and bad. Has some of the best if he has the ball plays, if that makes sense. Like, when he has the ball, he makes some great plays. Shimmy shake, can flat out run. Dude is fast. He ran a 4.35 in the 40, and the athleticism is definitely there. That's always good. I think the best part about him when he has the ball in his hands is he transitions to a running back so fast. He's got contact balance, he's got vision and feel. He's just got special team value because of all of this, and we'll probably end up with the widest array of grades of any player at the wide receiver position. I'm probably in the middle. I know there's players that don't have him, or people that don't have him top 15, and I can understand that side, and I can also understand the guys that are like, hey, no, he's top 5, because of the fact that he's just so explosive. But the bad, here's the reason why I think, if you go to the bad side of it, it's like the average depth of target was 3.6. The question, what route tree does this man have? He's restricted to the slot. He's undersized. He's 5'8". Doesn't play in 12 personnel at all. He's a gadget player. Normally that role just doesn't work out at the NFL. Like, there are guys that are good receivers in college that become gadget players in the NFL. That's different than what I think Zachariah Branch is trying to transition to. Going to be very team dependent, in my opinion. Like, he's going to need to go to a team that really knows how to use him. And there's very few in the NFL that I think can actually get the most production out of him. And the other problem is he hasn't ever been super productive. When he was at USC, he was like the wide receiver 4. because they had really good wide receivers. First off, I mean, it was like Deuce Robinson that's at Florida State now, Mekhi Lemon, who we'll talk about on this list, Jalen, and then Jacoby Lane, like really good receivers. But at the same time, I just never was like, oh, Zachariah Branch is the alpha. And then he went to Georgia, and I'm like, yeah, Zachariah Branch is good, but I just still am like, I don't know, like, what are we doing with him? And the 3.6 average depth of target really scares me, but he's 11 on this list because I do think that there's a difference between him and the next tier that was behind him with Ted Hurst, Antonio Williams, and Malachi Fields. Next guy up is going to be Chris Bell. I apologize. What am I saying? Chris Bell at 10 here. Now, I've seen some comps. Let's just be honest, guys. He's not A.J. Brown. I can't get there. He's not A.J. Brown. He is swole. He is swole as hell. A.J. Brown coming out of Ole Miss vibes with the, like, build and stuff. I can see that. But I do not see the polish or player that A.J. Brown was. Let's just put that out there. He's way closer to Xavier Legette. And I've seen those comps, too, to Xavier Legette, and that is by far my favorite comp. When I watch him play, I was like, oh, yeah, like, this is Xavier Legette. Xavier Legette scared the hell out of me because he was a one-hit wonder. At least Chris Bell has multiple years. He shows it on film, though, that swollenness. He's physical, can power over cornerbacks at the top of the route, strong hands. He's one of the few elite athletes in this class when you just take his size plus his athleticism. It's insane. Like, I thought he was going to be a combine alien, and unfortunately, he tore the ACL. I have him in a situation where, like, that ACL tear is such a weight on this ranking. Now, I'm going to tell you all right now, Jermon McCoy will not get that same situation. Like, I'm going to love Jermon McCoy. We're going to talk about Jordan Tyson. Jordan Tyson is a completely different injury type. Chris Bell injured his ACL in either December or January. That is so quick of a turnaround to get back to fall camp and be a week 1 player. I'm more worried about Christopher Bell actually starting the season than all the other guys in this class. So that's just a big thing. Just want to put that out there. Like I said, he is a really good athlete, and if you take away some of that juice, he is going to not be that guy, and you're not going to get the return on investment that you want. Now let's talk about the bad, which includes the ACL, of course. The route tree, it's really not there. Louisville just tried to get this guy the ball as often and as quick as possible. I don't think he runs great routes by any means, and that's kind of the problem. One of my big problems with him. There's not a lot of technique, mostly built on his athleticism, and that's kind of what Louisville wanted. I just wish I would have seen him kind of progress as a player and not be more like Xavier Legette and be more like A.J. Brown. Now, I don't want Chris Bell hate in the comments by any means, because I liked Chris Bell. He would have been higher on this list. The problem is he tore that ACL way too close to when I think it's like really hard for him to come back and play next year. Next guy, Elijah Surratt. I just think he's so safe. He's just a savvy route running possession wide receiver. He's built on getting open. Route running, there's a lot of nuance. Understands the play and where he is supposed to go and he adjusts correctly to what the secondary and the defense is trying to do to him. I think that part of it is just so good. That mental ability is so important when you play wide receiver. And it helps him always be open. The stop and go is actually a lot better than I thought it would be. Like, he's kind of just a quarterback's best friend. You can always kind of consider him open. Like, if he's your third read, you can kind of flip and throw it that way. Like, you feel pretty confident in him. He's a leverage king. He knows how to attack leverage. He's a pretty physical player. He's pretty big, 6'2", 210. Like, he uses his body pretty well. All about the floor he offers, and that's what really comes down to. Like, he's a contested catch player, good body control, always gets open, first down merchant, and a great locker room guy. All of those are reasons to draft this guy. All of them. A second round draft pick, in my opinion. Deserving second round draft pick because he is all of the things I just named. And that those things people overlook, I think. Like, they're like, oh, what about the athlete? Well, no. And let's get to the bad. He's not very athletic. He's not very explosive. He's not going to be able to separate vertically. Like, that's just is what it is. He's not going to do that. He's not going to take a post or a skinny post and just outrun the safety. That's not who he is. But at the same time, you're going to be like, can you run a comeback? Oh, absolutely. All day long. Throw that outside throw, and I'll get there. Those types of things. He's going to give you much he's not going to give you much as a yak guy, but that's okay, because at the same time, like I keep saying, contested catches, body control, always be able to get open, first down merchant, and great locker room guy are all reasons that I would draft him over some of these other guys on this list. And I'm just happy to get Elijah Surratt as a wide receiver 2/3 with a really high floor and just be good for a long time. That is okay with me. And I probably won't pay him much on his second contract because he's not really that guy where I'm just going to be like stretching his money. But he is a good football player, deserving of a second round pick, and I really like him. His comp was Keenan Allen, but it's like the Walmart version at the moment because I don't know that he will ever be a Keenan Allen truly. But he does all the things Keenan Allen does, that savvy route running possession type of wide receiver. I think he does all those things just like Keenan Allen, in my opinion. Excuse me. Next up is going to be Jeremy Bernard. Jeremy Bernard did a great job at the combine, running at 4.48 and checking off that box. I thought that was awesome to see. He did not need to do the other things because he did not help himself with the other things. But that 4.48 was really good to see. High-end wide receiver 2 prospect. I just think it's all about the floor. Great hands. Only one drop on the year, which is awesome. 1.5% drop rate up there, as you can see. Good blocker. He's physical. He runs a full route tree, willing to run all sorts of short and intermediate routes. He's a lineman versatile. I do not think he's restricted to the slot. I love the size at 6'1", 206. That actually really made me feel better. He's a savvy football player, ability to find soft spots in zones and ID coverages quickly. So he does all the right things, kind of like how Elijah Surratt. Like, if you had Elijah above Jeremy, I wouldn't be mad at you because I think they're very similar players. I just think there's more athleticism that Jeremy Bernard offers you. He's better. So Jeremy Bernard is better when there's a wide receiver 1 on the field with him. When Ryan Williams is on the field with him, he is a better football player. So I think that that's a big thing to remind people. He will not be. That kind of reminds me of how I thought about Emeka Egbuka last year. Like, when Emeka Egbuka has a number 1 on the field, he is a better football player. When Mike Evans was on the field, I thought Emeka Egbuka was better. Now, as the year went on, people started to realize how to cover Emeka Egbuka, and it got harder because at the beginning of the year he was really good, but at the same time there's no film on the guy. So as the year went on, they figured it out and they started to stop him. But when Mike Evans was on the field, Emeka Egbuka was better. I think the same thing for Jeremy Bernard. He needs a number 1 with him on the field. Really impressed by his 40. Needed to show that. He needed that because that was one of his biggest critiques. I don't think, does not possess like top end athleticism. Like, I don't think he has super bursty, like twitchiness or quickness or any of that. But I think he's good. Like I said, he's never going to be number 1 in an offense. And that's okay. Like, we pay 3 receivers every year per team to go out there and start for us. And he can start on a team and he's going to be good. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of bads. He's basically a floor player. He's not an elite player by any means. He's not even a great player probably, but he's good. He's a good player. And he's going to be good all the way through his career, most likely. So I'm really happy to get a guy like that, especially late second round, maybe even mid second round, because I think that you could take a chance on a guy like Jeremy Bernard, and I'm a big fan of his. So that's our number 8 player. Let's go over to number 7, new tier, top 50 players. All these guys are going to be top 50 players for us. Chris Brazzell out of Tennessee. This guy, 6'4", almost 200, going to be a field stretcher for you. 3rd-team AP All-American. I really like that for him. I thought that he deserved it, and I'm glad he got it. His comp is a guy that just got paid, which is Alec Pierce. I don't know that a lot of people are making that comp, but I think that they're very similar. And if you think about what route tree Alec Pierce runs, I think it's very similar to what Chris Brazzell runs. And will probably run at the next level, like just field stretcher that is a contested catch guy, but can actually take the top off of a defense. Well, how about Chris Brazzell, who ran a 4.37, right? So yeah, Z receiver with top end speed. Shows off that track speed often. Physically imposing football player, size and length. That is hard to cover. That size plus length is hard to cover, which makes him able to make some spectacular catches. I wish he was a better contested catch player, but he is capable of making some of the coolest catches in football. He's light years better to me than X Vols. Because a lot of people are like, oh, we can't draft a Tennessee wide receiver that plays X for them because what happened to Dante Thornton and Jalen Hyatt? It's like, well, this guy actually can run routes. He's a little bit better than those guys were, even if you want to scout the helmet, I get it. Spectacular in the deep part of the field. He caught 13 of 23 passes for 509 yards and 6 touchdowns. Multiple receptions where he was just running past defenders wide open. And that's why he was a 3rd-team AP All-American, because people literally could not stop him. He's really tough to cover in man-to-man if you can't get your hands on. Because if he defeats your hands, it's a sprint. And you're sprinting versus a gazelle that can, and not even just that, like you're sprinting against a gazelle and your back's to the quarterback. And if that ball is high pointed, it's like, I don't know what you're supposed to do. He's really good at defeating press. I thought the release package was good. Really good at pressing vertically and then breaking into blind spots. I thought, that's actually something that a lot of people don't think about when they're scouting is like, when do they break? How are they setting up the cornerback? Like, I think a lot of people can just like say you go to the highlights and be like, oh yeah, this guy looks good at football, He really attacks blind spots well. I like that a lot. Really good at top of routes. Top gear is there, like I said, over and over and over. And that top gear makes the defender respect him. I found something really odd. Tennessee in general is really odd. They rotate their whole defense all the time. Like, the whole thing is weird, but here's something odd that I found. 1,714 wide snaps, and 713 of them were at the right wide receiver. So they don't necessarily have, like, you don't flip sides based on X and Z. You just go to the right or left. That's Tennessee's offense for you, of course. Small for his height. That sub 200 is not necessarily something I want. And if he gets hands-on, he will be slowed down a little bit. Didn't run a full route tree, probably because that's just what they do with Tennessee receivers. And that's why people worry about it, because they don't ask them to run a full route tree. And not the most imposing contested catch receiver, even knowing he's got his size. That's something I'd like him to get better at overall. But that is Chris Brazzell. Really excited about him. Like I said, I compared him to Alec Pierce. I think that is my favorite of the comparisons, the comps that I've seen for him. Because I think other people are comping him to guys that I just am not as confident with. Next up, Denzel Boston. Denzel Boston out of Washington. Denzel, his comp is really difficult. It's really, really difficult. You know, there's a lot of Keon Coleman being thrown out, and I can see that personally, because I'm kind of like, okay, I understand what the Keon Coleman comp is for. They're about similar athletes. They're about the same size and all that stuff. They had similar, you know, contested catch and drop rates. Okay, sure. Like I can see what the comp is going at. The problem is there's a little bit more nuance to Denzel Boston. I don't think Keon Coleman or Denzel Boston really separate that well, but I think that, you know, if you're just talking about them in a vacuum, they're not the same player. I just don't really have a better comp than Keon Coleman if you're just looking at the size and everything. But let's just be honest, they're not the same players, so let's just call Keon Coleman, and Denzel Boston, because I don't think that it's a fair comp in that way. He's a typical X receiver, most known for his fantastic contested catches, 76.9% contested catch rate, very reliable hands, natural high point, and jumping ability, and he's a red zone merchant. He is going to find a way to score. Good athlete for his size. He's quick. He's got a little bit more shimmy shake than you might expect, especially for a 6'3", 212 guy. Showed alignment versatility, which I thought was really good to see, because I like big receivers that are willing to go into the slot, because also you can block from in there. Movement receivers like this, guys that can go from, you know, XYZ, they give you an opportunity to make the field a little bit different and make defenses respect you in a different way. That's why I hate how Tennessee did it and said, hey, Chris Brazzell, go play all your snaps at one side. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Has a really good feel against zone coverage, in my opinion. Like, he just knows where the holes are and things like that. He should like that. That's important. Good run blocker. And like I said, play the slot, go block. He was 39th on our big board 2.0. Or sorry, 36 on our big board 2.0. He's going to stay around there. I'm not as high on him as some people, but I think now a lot of people are actually lowering him and moving other guys up. So this is where I think a lot of people are going to end. They might be in like that 33 to 36 range like I am. Let's talk about the bad, though. He's not going to be your fastest guy out there. I just don't, you know, that's just not what he does. That's why he didn't run the 40. I think it's a good decision by him and his camp not to run the 40 because he's not that fast. I don't love betting on contested catch players, only that, like, guys that don't create separation that are only contested catch players. He has a little bit more of a separation ability than maybe some of the other just straight up contested catch players, but I don't think he's not going to have separation scores that are, you know, anywhere near any of the guys in the top 5. And that's just kind of where I'm at. I don't, like, personally, I'm not going to put guys with contested catch as their number one thing higher. That's just not who I am. I want to see guys that separate. I want to see guys that play multiple positions. I want to see guys that have good yards after catch or yards per reception plus minus ADOT. Like, that stuff really is what goes up for me. Separation is my biggest thing, though. And if you have to be able to get open. Denzel Boston, a lot of people are like, let's bet on this guy's floor. And I'm like, well, I'm a little more worried about his, you know, I'm way more worried about his floor. I think it's much lower than a lot of people are saying it is. Now, his ceiling is like a legit football player at the next level that could be an all-pro. But I'm more of a, hey, like, let's take it back a notch because the floor is scaring me a lot more than the ceiling. You know, I thought a lot of his plays this season were scripted for him rather than his route running overall. And I think that kind of pulls away from that separation score. So I like Denzel Boston, and I like him all the way at 6 in the top 40. But let's be honest, let's not put him in the top 25 like some people are. That's just where I'm at with him. Next up is one of my guys. When I say my guys, he was my guy, and then everybody else also claimed him, which is not cool because I had him on our first big board, which we released in December on our other channel on GTD, in our top 50. I had him 49th, I believe, which was way higher than anybody else. I don't think his name was in the top 100. And then, like, after the Senior Bowl, Daniel Jeremiah has him at 19. I'm like, hey, let's settle down. I had him first. I'm a huge fan of Omar Cooper Jr. Out of Indiana. Very safe player. His teammate was Elijah Surratt, obviously. One of the things with him, and my comp for Omar Cooper is Rashee Rice. But one of the funny things is they asked D'Angelo Pons who his comp was for him, his teammate that plays corner, and D'Angelo Pons says Devontae Adams. Well, those are two really big names, all right? D'Angelo Pons said that it's because of his release package and what he can do coming off the line of scrimmage. I think that, you know, I saw a lot of that. I don't know that I saw Devontae Adams, but hey, that's some big praise. I've seen Stephon Diggs as a comp. Like, really good football players have been comped to this guy. I think he's much deserving of all those names. But those are some tall tasks. It's like, so, you got to climb a little bit of the mountain to get up to those guys. He ran a 4.4240. I thought that was great. This to me is the underneath and intermediate slot plus guy. I think he can play outside. I think he's going to play a lot in the slot. He's a good run blocker. He's a competitor. That is one of my favorite things about him, and that's what I saw early in the season. I saw the Penn State catch, which was awesome to win the game. I just saw a lot of times where he was going out there and competing better than the other side, competing constantly on every play, and the blocking and the route running and getting open. And even when he didn't get the ball, he just jogged back and then went and did it again, like over and over and over. I think he's a really well-coached, high IQ player. He's, soft spots in zone. He does, oh my gosh, he's always in them. Really good feel on how to get open based on coverage, bending route, pacing routes, depth of route, who is reading him and who he needs to read. I think that the bending of routes is really, really good. So what that means is, like, you read the coverage and say you get Tampa 2, right? So you have to know where the soft spots in Tampa 2 are. The soft spot in Tampa 2 is behind the middle defender at 15 yards. So if he's running a dig or a post, right, and something in the middle of the field, he's going to go into that soft spot deeper than that 15-yard defender. Now, if they're in cover 3, he's going to bend it in front of that cover 3 middle safety and stuff like that. I think he ran some of the best routes in that way, where he changed his route based on coverage. And Fernando Mendoza just knew he was going to be there. I thought that was great. The pacing of routes is how fast he runs his routes, how he comes off the line. He's going to take off the line and make it look like it's a vertical and then make a move and things like that. I thought that was good. So yeah, he's a really, really savvy football player. He's great yak. He's a running back with the ball in his hands. He's built strong. He breaks tackles. He actually forced 24 missed tackles this year, which was 6th of all players in the nation, which is awesome to see. That's that build, kind of like that Luther Burden build that I had liked last year, and I was a big fan of Luther Burden. I guess I have a type. I don't know. His acceleration is good. And then also, like, a 16.57% catch rate over expectation. Like, he has great hands. He's in body control in the air. He makes insane catches. We talked about that Penn State game winner, like, insane catches. One of the most complete wide receivers and pro-ready players. And I just think I would draft him, top 20. Like, I would. If my team needed a wide receiver and the guys above him are gone, or I like his style more, I'm willing to draft him top 20, top 25. No problem. And so I'm really excited about that. Now, there's some bad. I don't think he's a top tier athlete. I think he's a good athlete. Game is based on fundamentals and IQ more than it is based on, like, just physically imposing himself. He's got a limited route tree. He had a limited route tree at Indiana and slot only right now. But the funny thing is, I think he can expand to a Z role. He did play half of his snaps last year as a wide receiver, and then half of them as a slot receiver, while this year he was actually just a slot. So he can do both. That doesn't scare me as much for him to, move outside and play a little Z. It's more so, I just don't think he's like this elite athlete or top tier athlete. So that's the biggest detriment. But he ran a 4.42 and checked a box that I was really excited about when he ran that fast. Like, this guy's going to be much higher on our board. He's not going to be 33rd. He'll be in the 20s or maybe even higher than that, because I just like him that much. All right, guys. Now, this next guy is going to be a guy that I don't think anybody would see coming. Which I love to do on these videos, of course. Y'all know that. It's Makai Lemon at a USC. I think Makai Lemon is a really, really good football player. This is not a knock on him. He won the Blitnikoff Trophy, even if he didn't deserve it. Let's just be honest, because he didn't even win the Big Ten Wide Receiver of the Year. That was Mr. Jeremiah Smith, so maybe that should have been Jeremiah Smith's award, but whatever. I really like Makai Lemon. Don't get me wrong. And that's why he's 4, and that's why he's a top 20 player, and he's got comps. For me, I'm not the Amon Ra comp. I see more Golden Tate. But sure, like, I actually have a really hard time comping this guy. I don't really think he's Amon Ra like some people do. That 3.13 yards per route run is insane. We really have to, that is insane. He's a power slot to me. Going to play mostly in the slot, but can move outside if he needs to. USC did it. They put him at wide receiver in the red zone just to let him go and try to catch contested catches on fade balls. Like, for some reason, they had Jacoby Lane, and were like, no, Makai Lemon can do it. Whatever. That's a USC thing. He's got really high IQ. Speed off of the line is really good. His change of directions, breaks are robotic and quick. Now, the robotic is an interesting word, because I think he is actually robotic, like when he moves and how he runs. Which maybe, I don't know, is a turnoff to me because I put him at 4, but truly it's just a weird thing that I noticed. He's great hands, good with the ball after the catch. Toughness is his calling card, in my opinion. He's willing to run any route. Across the middle, does not care. Sticks his head in the middle and takes hits, whatever. He's a good blocker for his size. He's not great by any means. I mean, he's still 5'11", 192. Like, he's still going to get pushed around a little bit, but he's willing to put his head in there and go fight for some blocks. The bad is I think he's small and possibly smaller than listed, and then he came in at 5'11", so I was like, oh, never mind. I think he that was good to see. I didn't think he was that tall, so the size is an issue still, but it's not like, oh, glaring issue. Red flag, 5'9". He's 5'11", pretty good. Possibly restricted just to the slot, and that is an interesting thing when you're going to say, hey, let's pick a guy top 10, and we're only going to have him in the slot. Like, that scares me more than the other things we're talking about. Like, I want guys that are alignment versatile and run around and move around, and you can do anything with them if you're going to pick them top 10. Now, I just don't think Makai Lemon is that guy. He's going to be a really good slot player, attack zones and things like that, but I just don't know that he has the ability to come out of the slot. Now, USC thought he did, but I don't know if we can assume that at this point for him. Now, against outside corners, if he did move out there, I just don't think he can get off press as well. I think hands-on kills him, and cornerbacks aren't worried about him going vertical because he's more quick than fast. I don't think he's like a insane athlete. This is one of my big things. Like, we're talking about wide receivers, and wide receivers to me have to be at least good to great athletes when it comes to top 15 picks. There has to be some juice for the receiver position. You can't just go out there and pick a dud and expect him to be better than his athleticism says. Now, there are guys that are really good technical players, and they're going to go in the second round. So if you do think that Makai lacks some of that athleticism and is more of a football player than an athlete, which is fine. But at the same time, that scares me a little bit because I want someone that can, be a freak. Now, that's the down class. 18th on our big board is actually way lower than everybody else. I will probably not be able to pick Makai Lemon if we did a What Would We Do mock draft with other people, because he's probably going to go in the top 15. I'm not going to have him there. I've seen 7 as his highest, I believe, and even higher maybe for some people because they love him that much, and I get it. I just am not on this player. Now, I've said that about a couple players on this list. I'm not as high on Denzel Boston, and I'm not as high as Malachi Fields, and I'm not, all those things. But that's just because they're not my preference of player. I think you could make them really good, and if you get them on raw out of Makai Lemon, you're going to be very happy. I just don't see that they're the same player. I don't think they're similar, but I don't think they're the same player like we're getting after. Now, if I did have to say it, Makai Lemon is a much better prospect than Amon Ra was, but I just don't know if he'll hit the ceiling that Amon Ra is now. Also, what's up with the interview? Guys, what is up with the interview? Why is he staring at the camera like that? That just was like, all right, I guess I can put him at 4, no problem, because he did some stuff like that. That was just like, what is happening right now? But yeah, next guy, there we go. Mr. Casey Concepcion. Kevin Concepcion, transfer out of NC State where he was a gadget-only player and then goes to Texas A&M, and they use him as a true Z receiver where he moves all around the formation and just, I love Casey Concepcion. I am so high on KC. And I have a type. I love elite separators. And this is an elite separator in my opinion. He's first team AP All-American as an all-purpose player. He's first team All-SEC wide receiver, return specialist, and all-purpose player. How about dynamic playmaker? Just a freaking playmaker. Get the ball to this guy in any capacity, and he's going to do something with it, right? Best words for me to describe Casey is explosive. When the ball is in his hands, punt return, inside, outside, does not matter. He is just going to be explosive. He's that separator that I love to see. If he gets a step on you, he has one. He showed that against, who was it? Brandon Cisse. A lot of people have really high on their list, and he just ran right past Brandon Cisse, and I was like, okay, this guy's got some special wheels, And of course, that was against South Carolina in the second half, where it was the 30-3 game, and they came back and won. But this dude's got some wheels. Has so many plays where he just runs away from defenders, just runs away from them. Short area quickness makes him hard to stay in phase with. In and out breaks, because he was such a gadget guy at NC State and has so many gadget abilities. The short area quickness just shows up all the time. And that shows when he has the ball and when he doesn't, when he's running his routes. The yak that he has, oh my gosh, the yards after catch built on that explosiveness turns into a running back with the ball. Of course, he's 5'11", 196. He does not care. He's only, he's going to go find a way to get to the end zone. I love that. One of my favorite players to evaluate was lower on him coming to the season, because I just was like, oh, is he only a gadget player? And then he was like, no, I can do it. Just watch. And he did. I believe he can do more than just play slot. I think that he will play Z a lot at the NFL level. I think he's going to be all over the formation. Happy he ran a full route tree at A&M. In man, he is one of the hardest players, in my opinion, to guard, because he's just so explosive in and out of breaks, and setting up defenders and stuff like that. Like, he is just hard to guard. Now, the bad, in all caps, what are we doing with these drops, man? Get this man on the jug machine. He makes better catches when he's covered than he does when he's open. It's like his mind is processing so fast and he's ready to run with the ball that he drops the ball because he makes some impressive catches. There's a catch where he jumps over, I don't remember who he was against. He jumps over some players, catches the ball, and lands on the 1 yard line, doesn't get in. Should have 10 touchdowns if he would have just been 1 more yard. But that play was crazy. And I'm like, that was a hands catch. He didn't wait for the ball to come into his chest like he does on so many plays. It's like, dude, catch the ball with your hands, get on the jugs machine, catch the ball first before you turn to run, because if you do all those things, man, like there's no way you're not the top wide receiver in this class. And people aren't like, oh, this is the guy, because he could be that guy. He lacks overall catch radius because he's a smaller guy. So the size is a problem in the, run blocking and things like that. But the speed, the separation, the athleticism, like I love it. I love it. I wish he would have tested at the combine. I think he would have excelled in the twitchy and explosive movements. Would have loved to see him check those boxes off. But at the same time, I'm a huge KC guy, so I don't really need those things. I just would have loved to see them for my own, like, oh yeah, gotcha, got that one, good job. But otherwise, I think that Casey Concepcion is a legit football player. Most people are going to be like, how is he above Mackay? I don't care, because I am not as high on Mackay, and I'm higher on Casey. They were literally separated by one spot on our big board. Mackay was 18th and Casey was 17th. It is what it is. I love this guy, and I hope he, actually catches the ball a little bit better and can show off some of those athletic skills that he has. Okay, number 2, Mr. Cardinal Tate out of Ohio State. Now, Cardinal Tate was our GTD preseason dark horse. I actually picked 2 for this position. This position's pretty big, and normally, like, picking 2 for this position of guys that are different is pretty easy. Antonio Williams is one of them. Cardinal Tate's the other. Second team AP All-American. I was a huge Cardinal Tate fan coming into the year because I was like, I think that this guy has it. I think he's got that juice that most people are writing him off of. Now, 4.53 40. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he ran so bad. It's like, no, that's a really good 40 time. But the problem is no one else ran that was going to run bad. Like everybody that was going to run 4.4s or better. Cardinal Tate and Malachi Fields went out there and ran, solid 40s for their size. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. It's like, no, that was fine. Especially when you have an 85.7% contested rate and a 0.0% drop rate. No one cares. Sorry, I do not care. And neither will the NFL scouts. Those are fine numbers. Now, on top of that, the second team AP All-American and the GTD Dark Horse, he's the best deep threat in the class. He understands how to attack vertically, separate at the top of routes, finish plays. Oh my gosh, he finishes plays every time. I mean, that's why he's got such a good contest rate and good drop rate, because he goes up and gets it. There's plenty of times he bails out Julian Sayin. Plenty of times. And don't forget, guys, he is an Ohio State wide receiver. He's got a high IQ. He's a good blocker. He's got great character. The track record is all there, especially the track record of other Ohio State wide receivers going to the NFL. Who cares if they're wide receiver 2s, 3s, or 4s? They're going to be good. Doesn't really matter. The hands are so good. The catch radius, long athlete with just massive hands, fixes quarterback's issues with that combo. He's a smooth athlete. He glides as a runner. No, he doesn't have like a 3rd, 4th, 5th gear, but he is pretty freaking fast. And when he's coming at you full speed, you're like, I don't know when to turn and flip, but he's probably going to run by me if I don't now. Allows for very smooth transitions in his route running, though, because he is a glider. And he runs basically the whole route tree because that's what they asked him to do at Ohio State. And I love to see that because that gives me a little bit more information on what I think this guy could be. Now, the bad side of it, I don't think there's top end speed. I think the 4.53 was good. I wish it was faster, personally, because that would have made me feel better. But the 4.53 was good. Like, that's what, most of the NFL wide receivers that are his height will run. Not in this class, though, right? Because that's what I was saying. It's like everybody that ran 4.4s. My biggest question for Cardinal Tate is, can he be a number 1? I don't know that I think he can. I think he is by far the best 2 in the NFL. I think that there's plenty of teams in the top 10 that have a number 1 receiver that will love to have him as their number 2. Malik Neighbors comes to mind. I just don't know that he's elite enough, like elite to be a number 1 receiver on a team. And that's not a knock on him. I think that being a wide receiver 2 and having 1,000 to 1,200 yards a year is really good. I'm not going to, be mad about that. But we've seen him. He was a number 3 last season behind Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Ibuka. He was number 2 this season behind Jeremiah Smith. He took a huge step up, of course, but he still didn't go nuclear as a number 1 receiver by any means. My question to everybody out there, and y'all can tell me yes or no, and I have him lower on our board. He's 14th, and a lot of people have him top 10. Is his upside capped? Is this the best he can be, or does he have more athleticism, is there more to come? I love the player that he is now, and if I get this player in his floor right now, he is a number 2 receiver on every offense in the league, basically, except for Cincinnati. But I'm not going to, expect him to just be a number one all the time. Now, my comp to him, there's two of them. I put Devontae Parker is one of my comps when I just look at how his build is and things like that, how I think he plays. Now, Devontae Parker had some injuries. He wasn't nearly as good as his draft spot, things like that. And I could see a little bit of that with Carnell. But the other guy is T. Higgins. And T. Higgins is a true number two on a team where he is the best number two in the league, and he is fine with it. And I love it. So those are my two comps. Tell me which one y'all like more. I think T. Higgins is probably the one most people lean to because they're really big on Carnell Tate, and they're like, Devontae Parker sucked. But it's like, okay, y'all can see the arc though, right? Like y'all can read the tea leaves, because I think Devontae Parker was going to be good, had some injuries, and then never panned out. But I think as a prospect, they're very similar football players. Next up, the number one player on this list, and you should know who it is, Mr. Jordan Tyson. Look, I can understand everybody wanting to say, oh, the injuries. It's like, I get it. But I don't like putting super biases with injuries into my stuff. They were injuries in all different parts of his body. The hamstring is the one that scares me the most. Of course, that was this year. But they were injuries to all different kinds of parts of his body. He wasn't injured in the same spot any of the 3 years. And he is by far the most athletic, explosive. Sorry, not athletic and explosive. He is by far the most talented wide receiver in this class. My comp for him is CeeDee Lamb. I don't think CeeDee was ever just the most explosive player ever, but I think that CeeDee just knew how to get open, and I think that's what this guy is. He's above average in every wide receiver category. He's the best route runner in this class. Has flexibility and movement skills that are special, and actually are a little crazy to watch because he doesn't make any route look the same. He understands how to stem and set up defenders to create separation. Route running equals separation, 3-level separator, but he does it in such a way that it's just it's hard. There's times in sports where you're like, hey, that guy just looks different when you see him do something. How he moves and how he runs routes. That's what I think with Jordan Tyson. I'm like, he's just different. He kills the intermediate part of the field and underneath part of the field. He's a plus level athlete. I know that you're not going to see that because he didn't go to the combine because he was injured. But I think he's a plus level athlete. This is how I like explaining his route running a little bit, but he would have the acrobat badge. When y'all played 2K and you get the acrobat badge, that's what I think he has. He can contort his body in insane ways to make catches. Just insane contortion. I will tell you right now, Sam Leavitt was not the most accurate quarterback in the nation last year. Jordan Tyson bailed him out a lot. Alignment versatility, man. This guy, like I said, he reminds me of CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee plays slot, outside, he plays everywhere. They're very similar sized. Really reminds me of him. Some people say JSN. I'm like, JSN is so much smaller. I get what you're saying with the route run and stuff, but I just don't see it as much. I think CeeDee is my perfect comp in my opinion. Like I said though, everybody's gonna talk about the injuries, and the bad of him is injuries. He has missed games in each of the last 2 seasons, at least the last 3 seasons. I really wish he would have tested, but at the same time, he will be a discount. Las Vegas could get Mendoza, and if we trade for a first this year, say with Dallas or somebody, if Baltimore would have given us their first, and we would have kept the whole Max Crosby trade figured out, we could have had Jordan Tyson and Fernando Mendoza, and I would have been like, okay, here we go. I don't think he has just high-end speed, mostly short area quickness, and there's a few too many fumbles for my liking, but this is a guy that I'm willing to bet on to be if you're going to talk about this class and you're like, which one of these guys is going to be a superstar? Jordan Tyson is the only guy in this class to me that is a superstar. He is the only guy in this class that could be well, maybe he could challenge Justin Jefferson. Oh, maybe he could challenge Jamar Chase at the top. I'm like, yeah, he has the talent to be a top 10 receiver in the class, or in the NFL. There's very few guys that I'm like, yeah, they could be top 10 receivers. There's really not, other than this guy, in my opinion, in this class. Now, a lot of people have Mekhi Lemon above him or Carnell Tate above him, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's been injured. If you take the injuries out of it, he's a top 5 player on everybody's board. And maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I shouldn't do this. But I do not want to take those injuries into account, because I think that if you go get him and he plays, 14 games a year for you, you're still going to win. You're still going to be very happy if he plays 14 games a year for you. So that's what I feel. So that's the end of our rankings. Let's go over to the rankings between years. Always a fun topic of discussion. Ranking between years. Top is, of course, Marvin Harrison, who was a generational prospect that hasn't panned out yet. Malik Neighbors at number 2, but then Jordan Tyson slots in right there. There's a big group between Jordan Tyson and Carnell Tate. I believe personally, and I think this is a big question. I think I might put this question as a quiz or something in the chat. But would you rather have Carnell Tate or Tetairoa McMillan? Because me personally, I would love to get Tet. I think Tet was a better player than Carnell Tate, and they both play on the vertical plane. So give me Tet over Carnell Tate personally. The next guy, Luther Burden and Casey Concepcion. I think they're very similar. I think Luther's bigger and more athletic and physically gifted, and I like him a little more. But then you have Makai Lemon, Emeka Buka, and then a group before you get to Omar Cooper Jr. and Denzel Boston, and then a group, and that is the end of it. But yeah, I really like this wide receiver class. I think it's really deep. There's going to be a lot of guys drafted in the top three rounds, and as you can see, I like enough of 6 of them to be in the top 20 of the last 3 years. But let me stop sharing. That was a fun video. And okay, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Yeah, let me know about that Tet versus Carnell Tate question I had. I think that's a really big question to ask because that is a lot of people had Tet as their number 1 wide receiver in the class. I actually had Travis Hunter as our number 1 wide receiver, now most likely going to only play defense. But I think it's a really interesting question. Like, where would you have Tet versus these other guys? Now, that is, of course, including Jordan Tyson and not believing that the injury bug is going to continue on him. But, just kind of let me know where y'all think that Tet should be versus this class, because I think that's a really interesting conversation to be had. But at the same time, I really appreciate y'all being here, hanging out. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Like this video. Comment on that question. Comment whatever you would like to say. Tell me where I'm right, where I'm wrong, because I know I'm wrong somewhere. But I appreciate y'all being here, hanging out with me, and I will see y'all on the next one.